Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to be here today. I'm here with Suzanne Scurlock-Durana. And Suzanne is the author of Full Body Presence, which I have and I love. And her latest book, which has just been released, it's called Reclaiming Your Body. And I'm lucky I got a copy of it, and I'm about
That's so exciting.
Halfway through.
Oh my goodness.
Love it, love it, love it. So I'll tell you a little bit about Suzanne. Suzanne Scurlock-Durana is one of the world's leading authorities on conscious awareness and its transformational impact on the healing process. For more than 30 years, she has empowered people with practical tools that enable them to experience joy in each moment without burning out. These skills help improve every aspect of their lives, from their health and well-being to their relationship, their careers, their creativity, even the growth of their businesses. Her Healing from the Core curriculum, combined with cranial sacral therapy and other bodywork modalities, creates a complete body-centered guide to awareness, healing, and joy. Suzanne teaches around the world, and she's just about to jet off again. And please visit her website, which is healingfromthecore.com. So welcome and congratulations on this new baby, this new release. It is like a baby, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. A long, long labor, much longer than my first two children. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
So your new book explains how to heal from trauma and awaken the body's wisdom.
Right.
But let's start with, what do you mean by trauma? Because I think a lot of people that are tuning in would think, oh, well, maybe this book isn't for me. I haven't really been in a trauma. And when I say trauma, I sort of think car accident or an abusive relationship.
Right.
But
right.
When I read this book, it's for everyone. So let's talk. What do you mean by trauma?
Well, I have to say that across the course of writing it, and also the practice of my teaching and my practice in the last 30 years, I've begun to understand that trauma encompasses a wide spectrum of events. And basically what we mean is something that has occurred to you, and it could be something that had no violence attached to it at all, but something that caused your being to pull in, shrink, tighten down, and stay that way for some reason. And this can be something like having someone at your work who is very nasty or derogatory on a regular basis, and you can't really put your finger on it, and they haven't really said anything, but you find as you're getting ready to go into work every day that your shoulders come up and you tense up, if you're aware of it. Now, most people wouldn't even be aware of it. And the story that I tell in the book that is so telling, I was writing the book, and one of my colleagues emailed me and she said, you know, you've got to name the kinds of trauma that happen from not just traumatic experiences, but from the things that happen to us from neglect, the things that happen to us from our life circumstances that we don't really have any control over. So let's say, for instance, that in the book I talk about the man who has had a major heart attack. He was a really wonderful healthcare practitioner, and he was incapable of saying no to his staff, to the people around him in his life. Anyone that needed him, he would step forward, to the point that he wore himself out. And when the therapist that's my colleague went back in time with him, it was discovered that his pivotal moment was when he was about 9 or 10 years old, and his single mother was getting the call from the school that his younger brother, who was quite a rebel and a troublemaker, had just broken his arm again. And his mother was basically saying, okay, I will come pick him up, and I don't know how I'm going to do this because I'm a single mother and I can't take care of this. And her son, the man with the heart attack, basically stepped up and he said, I am never going to make my mother have to worry again. And he took care of his brother, and he cleaned the house, and he showed up, and he was like super responsible, always providing whatever needed, no matter the cost to himself. himself. And that trauma, that moment created a traumatic pattern that led to his being extremely ill when he got to the middle of his life. Am I making sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And as you say, that's something that he wasn't really even aware of that he was doing.
Not aware of it at all.
And the illness didn't come until middle age.
Right. Like in his 50s. I believe he was in his late 40s, early 50s, and everything just sort of just broke down. So of course we have the definition of trauma would be car accidents, birth trauma, abusive relationships, assault of any kind. But it also, we're seeing that trauma stays in the body in complex, multi-layered ways, from things that have to do with neglect, from things that have to do with there not being enough, the things that, the decisions we make early on that push us into patterns that tighten us down. Am I making sense?
Yeah. And it's even sometimes, certainly for me, it's decisions that our parents made.
Right.
That can affect and bring trauma. And not that they mean to, it's just sometimes that happens as well. And so let's talk about that. What, because you talk about this in your book, what does the latest research tell us about how unresolved trauma can impact our lives and our health?
Yeah, actually, probably the most widely looked at and the best research out there comes from the ACE studies. ACE, ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. It's a simple 10-question questionnaire. It was put together by Kaiser Permanente, and they were looking for something else. They weren't even looking for it. And what they discovered that if they asked these 10 questions, and if someone scored, I want to say above a 5 on these 10 questions, yes. Questions like, were you ever afraid at home? Was there anyone in your home that scared you badly, like a sibling that bullied you, a parent that was abusive? Did you have a parent that was incarcerated? Were you ever hit physically, sexually molested? Were you, it was 10 questions that when I looked at them, I thought, gosh, they nailed these. I mean, they're just, and it's very easy to go look at that. It's ACE, Adverse Child Experience. And it's very fascinating because I was just at a conference in London with Gabor Mate, who The Body Says No, right? Yeah. Great book. And he and I were talking at dinner, and he was saying that he went to speak in San Diego for I want to say for UCLA or somewhere, Southern California, it wasn't San Diego. And they were saying, what research do you have to back up what you're about to speak about? And he said, well, it's your research, actually. And they didn't even realize that's how they have not. And it's hitting and you'll see in my book, the references to it, and you can go and look. There are TED Talks about it, really nice things that are being said now that explain to us that it is so fascinating how our lives impact us and how trauma gets stuck in the tissues of who we are. And we talk them in craniosacral land, we call it, you have issues in your tissues.
I have issues in my tissues, let me tell you.
We all do, by the way. Yeah.
And throughout your book and, your previous book, you say that our body has its own language. And and I say that all the time now. My body's talking to me, but it's figuring out what it's saying. So you say that our body has its own language and is communicating with us always. Explain that.
Right. So the body's language is its primary sensations. It's images that may or may not have any story to go with it. So you might get a visual image when you drop into your chest, or you might have a felt sense of feeling heavy or light. You might get a sense of dread or elation. But oftentimes, these are the sensations that, it might be a pain, or it might be a stiffness or something. The body is basically signaling to you, pay attention over here, because there's something going on. Now, what's interesting is that most of us, if we were to say, does our body speak to us? People look at me kind of, are you kidding? But the truth is, if you look at our language, like you look at in each one of the wisdom areas of the body, I have down the sidebar, first part of the chapters, I have all the things we say in our language. My heart goes out to you. Oh my God, he was so hard-hearted. Oh, my heart dropped. You know, we talk about the way that our body speaks to us all the time.
Yeah, I love that I'm just going to interrupt you. I love that you did that down the side here.
Yeah.
And like, you know, people say, I'm bone tired. And, you know, like, tap into your bones. It's so fascinating. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is kind of one of the key pieces. And in full body presence, I teach people how to be in their full bodies. Yeah. In this book, I began to really look at the neighborhoods of the body, if you want to. So certain neighborhoods in your body, like the neighborhood of your heart, the heart and the surrounding area, has its own characteristic wisdom. The neighborhood of your gut and your digestive tract has its own wisdom. The neighborhood of your pelvis has its own power and wisdom. Our bones have their own wisdom. Our feet and legs have their own wisdom. And in fact, every part of who we are has its own wisdom. In craniosacral therapy, we talk about the fact that the body has a cellular intelligence. This is not the phone you talk on. This is the cells of the body. Each have memory and intelligence. And what we do with craniosacral therapy is to awaken that intelligence by touch and by dialoguing with the person on the table so they can start to hear the wisdom of their own body. And so that was part of what inspired me, was all my training and teaching in craniosacral. And then I began to notice as I was doing it, and then also teaching healing from the core, wow, you know what? There are, not only does every cell have intelligence, but there are certain areas that have certain characteristic wisdom. So that was kind of the fun piece. And then I began to look at how each of these areas, when it's harnessed, makes up the navigational intelligence of the body. And that includes the brain, by the way. That includes the brain. Yeah.
So how do you tap into that navigational system? Because as you say, I think so many people, one, don't even know that their body's talking to them. So now you're saying there's this whole navigational system.
Right.
Do you say to them, yeah, go back and read this?
No, actually, the audio downloads from the first book are in the second book as well.
Yes.
So the core processes for core embodiment are there in my second book. And then I refine, number one, I've been working with this core embodiment process, this grounding and filling process for, 30 years. And so every time I do it, every time I work with someone individually or with a group, I'm refining and refining and refining my words, what makes it go in better, what helps people embody more deeply.
Right.
And what words should I just leave out because they are not helping people? So you get a nice refinement of it in this latest book. But there's a whole chapter on, if you've already read my first book, there's a whole chapter on the refinement that you might find in going back and listening to the grounding and filling, again, that core embodiment process. And then there's a whole process for listening to your body. You and I were talking about in a previous interview how some people, when you really start to work with them, they'll tell you, I have no clue what my body's telling me. Now then there's a whole nother group of people that will tell you, hey, I did get a sense that there was something off there. I just didn't listen to it because I was too busy, or, my linear mind said it wasn't reasonable, right? And then you have the group of people that say, yeah, I heard it, and I trusted it, but life just took over, and I didn't pay any attention. And besides, I'm not really worth putting myself out. I know that my body said no to something, but I couldn't make those people unhappy. And so I just went along with it, even though my whole body was saying, no, don't do that. Right. Yeah. So that's the way that I think about there are different layers of listening to your body, trusting it, having a commitment to doing something about it, like really honoring this incredible navigational system we were given when we were born. Yeah. Yeah.
You have what's called the Body Intelligent Quotient Quiz.
Yeah. BQ, we called it.
The BQ. Why is this quiz so important? And can you just give us a sample, maybe one of the questions that I think is going to really get people to go, oh.
Okay. So number one, most people are very unconscious about how they feel about their bodies. If you were to say, well, are you friends with your body? Most people will go, oh, of course I'm friends with my body. What do you think? Am I friends with my body? Of course, but then when you start to ask them questions, and they're just 9 simple questions, all of a sudden you go, oh, that's true. If I have a deadline and I'm starting to come down with something, I don't listen to my body. I don't even skip a beat. I just nail it until I'm so sick I can't stand up, right? And well, that wasn't a very friendly thing to do, right? So, so there's that quality of asking yourself, oh, okay, maybe I'm not such a friend, right? Maybe I relegate my body and its importance and its intelligence to something underneath what my shoulds and ought tos and my linear and left brain intelligence tells me that I should be doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really found that quiz fascinating because, as you say, you think you know your body, and you think that you look at the questions and you think, oh yeah, but yeah, it really, it really does hit home that, oh, guess what? We could improve on this a little bit.
Exactly. And quite honestly, all of us are going to have 1 or 2 where we go, oh, right.
Yeah.
That would mean you probably have a pretty darn good relationship with your body.
Yeah.
If half of them you're like, ugh, and then if there's more than half, it's like, whoa, I need to take a closer look here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then that helps you. What that does is it gives you a baseline. This is where we're starting from. If you don't have any conscious awareness of how you are in terms of your body, there's nowhere for you to go, because you can't make a new decision if you don't even realize where you are.
No, and when you think about it, that affects every part of your life.
Oh yeah. I have a great, I love this particular quote in my book. Can I read it to you?
Yes, okay. Please. Yes, please.
It's the heading of it is the most important relationship in your life. Mm. Your relationships with other people throughout your lifetime, with your parents, spouses, children, friends, and teachers, will shift as time passes and situations change. Mm. As long as you're alive, however, your body is always with you. Mm. It's so beneficial to have a strong, deep, intimate relationship with your own unique physical self. Your body is designed to guide you, keep you safe, and bring you full vitality and pleasure. It is the vehicle through which you create and manifest your thoughts and dreams into reality. Mm. Yeah. And I love this. In this book, you will discover how establishing and nurturing a healthy relationship with your body will allow you to reclaim lost parts of yourself, tap into your body's wisdom, and better navigate your life.
And I think that's exactly it. Imagine by doing these exercises, what you could tap into, what you could manifest, what you could bring to your life with such joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things that you had never thought possible,
right?
By just being here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so let's talk about this amazing body wisdom. You talk about the 6 wisdom areas of our body. Mm-hmm. What are they? Can you name them? Give people.
Well, I can, and I just want to say, to start with, there aren't just 6.
No, you're right.
I had to write the book and get it done and do what I needed to do. So I chose the 6 that are probably the most accessible and understandable to most people.
Okay.
When I work with people, I have found many other wisdom areas of the body. And actually, in fact, every cell is a little teeny tiny wisdom area in and of itself. However, the 6 that are the major neighborhoods, if you will, are the heart,
right?
The inspiration of the heart, the gut, a gut feeling about something, the pelvis, your power of your pelvis, your feet and legs, and their ability to help you digest and metabolize things. Your bones and their ability to help you feel very steady and clear about things. And then your brain, mostly the prefrontal cortex, which helps you take all the messages from your body and everywhere else in your environment and helps you. It's the great strategizer and map maker that helps you then organize things and take action. Yeah.
And you go through each one of those, as you say,
Yeah.
neighborhoods, wisdom areas,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
help people to tune in.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And as you say, you know, I love these little sayings that you've got, idioms that, you know, it's just amazing. You know, he's in a fog, you know, she's headstrong, you know, when you think about the mind, or I'm losing my mind, these things that we say.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That are just,
I mean, you think about, let's just take the term how headstrong she is or whatever.
yeah.
That implies that person, the bus of their being is being driven by their head.
Right.
By their thinking processes. So that would mean that, for instance, someone's will is really pushing them. And we all know that when someone is driven by their will as opposed to their soul, you're eventually going to have problems. And in fact, the will, while it's very helpful in certain times, is not meant to be the king. You know, your mental processes are meant to be a team member. It's not meant to run the show. And really, truthfully, what we're seeing now in neuroscience is starting to back me up on this. Yeah.
The research is really starting to come. I mean, it's always been there, but now we're hearing more about it.
Right. Well, the gut, I mean, the whole thing about the gut's wisdom, the enteric brain.
Yes. Yeah.
Huge amount of stuff about that. Yeah.
Exactly. What is the core embodiment process, and why is it so important for our health and well-being?
Yeah. Well, my core embodiment process, which we previously used to call the grounding and filling exercise, or the basic relaxation and energizing exercise, but whatever you want to call it, was so long that we said, okay, what are we doing with this process? We're helping people to get a core in their bodies of an experience of who they are. So we called it the core embodiment process. And basically, that process is a requirement in order to really have full body presence. People can understand the concepts behind full body presence. They can understand the principles behind full body presence. They can understand it and not be able to experience it because they don't have a felt sense of anything much below their neck, or perhaps, if they're very heartful, below their chest. And there was actually a very exciting thing for me. I was just in London at a conference, and I got to hear Roland McCready, who is one of the main researchers at HeartMath for many, many, many years.
Okay.
And he was doing a whole piece about how HeartMath is now looking at the research on how trees and the earth itself actually have a resonance, a field that nourishes the cells of our body and particularly helps the heart get to coherence. You know, that heart rate variability coherence idea. And I just almost wanted to go up and hug him afterwards. I actually was having breakfast with him the next day. I said, oh, this is so exciting, Roland, that, you know, I've been following your work and actually teaching a lot from the HeartMath work for years. And I've been teaching that people not only need to have their hearts, but their gut, their pelvis, their feet and legs. And suddenly you all are talking about it. And he said, well, it's been around a long time, but we're just now starting to do, the research is starting to come in. And I was like, yes. So that's fun. Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's the whole philosophy too about, you know, grounding, walking bare feet, you know, and my husband's hilarious because I walk around bare feet all the time in the summer, and he's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm grounding and earthing. I'm, you know. There you go. There you go. And of course, then this past weekend, I stepped on a bee.
Oh my goodness. I sat on a bee at Essendon last summer.
And bare feet. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'll take that.
I'll bet that bee wasn't too happy with you.
No, he stung me, little bugger.
I know. I sat on one last summer. It stung me too.
Oh, jeez.
I picked it up in the garden at Essendon, and I was walking somewhere, and I got wherever I was, and I sat down, and I went, yowzer. And I kind of stood up and pulled it out and went, oh, you poor thing. You know, its stinger was now gone. And I'm not allergic to bees, so it wasn't a problem. But
yeah, it wasn't a problem. Exactly. You have a quote in your book by Joseph Campbell.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And it says, and I quote, people say that what we're all seeking is a meaning for life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's what we're really seeking. I think that what we're seeking is an experience of being alive, so that our life experiences on the purely physical plane will have resonances with our own innermost being and reality, so that we actually feel the rapture of being alive.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about that, because
Mm-hmm.
I think that is really what your book is about.
It is. It is. Yeah. And you're halfway through it. Wait till you get to I want to say chapter 10 or chapter 11.
Oh, yeah. I can hardly wait.
I wrote it at Esalen, actually, and it was really, I think it is chapter 10. Yeah. Oh, chapter 11. Yeah. Life is Waiting for You, it's called. Living in All the Cells. And it's just great fun because...
And that's it. We want it to be fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, being ill or having trauma is no fun.
No.
But as you say, if we can find that inner being, because as you said earlier in this interview, the one thing we're always going to have is our body.
Right.
We're always going to be with it.
Right.
And so why not treasure it, tap into it, love it, do this core embodiment process so that when things come your way, which they're going to.
Right. You're awake and you're ready for it.
Yeah.
And you don't let it just go right by. Because quite honestly, what I see is that when people are hunkered down with trauma, and they get to those really challenging times in their lives. Yeah. Like, and it happens to all of us, right? I've got a whole bunch of stuff on my plate right now that if I were hunkered down, I wouldn't be open to the answers that are coming. And when I'm open and grounded and full and here, all kinds of things show up that I wouldn't be present for otherwise. And that's exciting. Yeah. Because there are moments where something that would have been extremely painful for me years ago is just mildly uncomfortable. And then I walk on by it, and lo and behold, right on the other side of it is an exquisite sunset that I would have missed altogether if I had still been hunkered down in my, my whatever state. Yeah.
And that's not to say that there's going to be times, there may be a death of a parent or a spouse or whatever that's going to be sad and traumatic or whatever, and that you're not just going to walk on through it. But I think, as you say, there's so many little everyday things.
Yeah, but the little everyday things, but even the big things. When my father died, it was a 5-day process. My mom and my sister and my cousin Karen and I were all there with him, and I won't give you the gory details, but we knew that he was dying. There was a very finite amount of time. And each one of us did everything. I mean, we were as present as we could possibly be. We asked him what he wanted. We stayed right with him. And I just will never, I treasure that time with him. And he was dying, for Pete's sake, right? Yeah. So you would say, no. He knew he was dying. He wasn't afraid. We were right with him. And we each had the most exquisite moments. Now, there were times where we were exhausted. There were times where I just sat with tears streaming as I was remembering with gratitude the gifts that he's given me across the course of my life and the things that we had done and the ways that he had changed my world for the better. And each one of us, all 4 of us, had that kind of experience as we were going in shifts so someone could be with him all the time. And it was absolutely fascinating. Even in the dying process, there was this exquisite experience of how he had touched each one of us. It was just astounding. At some point, I'll probably put his story in my next book. I'm going to do a book about the dying process. I don't know that it'll be the next one, but about the dying process, because there are many things about dying that are not scary and that you do not need to run from, and that by showing up and really being present can be exquisite experiences. Yeah.
And I think that's similar to being ill or having an illness or whatever it may be, having a sick child, or there are are, I mean, as you say, there are points and times in there that are horrible, but then there are also these gifts.
Yeah.
What is something that you would like to leave our listeners with today about your book? And then, of course, we're going to let people know where they can go to get your book. Woohoo! Because I want everyone to get this book and just get deep.
Man, that's great.
Get into these wisdom areas.
Absolutely. I would say the thing I want to say to each and every one listening and watching this is that for me, the return to my body, to my core embodiment, that is my continuing process, by the way. I'm not fully core embodied. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. My whole walk in life is how can I drop more deeply and more deeply and more deeply into who I am at a soul level, who I came here, what I came here to do at a soul level. And my prayer is that other people will find exactly the same guidance. And in fact, that's been my experience in the thousands of students I've taught and people who have read my first book, that it's extremely, extremely helpful for helping them navigate that whole very, at times, mysterious process. It makes it simple, clear. It's how to do it, how to do it.
Yeah, it really is a how-to book, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. There are many, many people that have written about different philosophies that I agree with and that the book was really based on. This is not a philosophy book. This is a how-to book. It's a practical book.
Yeah, practical book, which I think is what we need, because we need to know, okay, I'm having issues at work with my boss, or I'm having issues with my spouse, or whatever. I've been ill for this long. What is going on? What am I missing? And so, jump into this book and do it.
Yeah.
And have fun. So where can we find your book?
Well, actually, I will tell you, you can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can get it straight from New World Library. My publicist said, and I don't know how soon you're going to be putting this on your site, but my publicist said if everyone could go in on June 15th and buy one, or however many you want to buy, that it would make the biggest splash. And it actually, one of the most exciting things.
Tell me.
It is, we just today found out, it is the #1 new release on Amazon, and it's only been out, a week. It's the #1 new release in the category of working with trauma, in the PTSD category, post-traumatic stress disorder category. So it's very
fantastic.
I'm over the moon about that.
And that's something we actually didn't even touch on, but as you say, for people that are experiencing PTSD, trauma, this is huge. This is a real awakening and guide for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So go get it. June 15th, 16th, 17th. I don't care when you see this or hear this, just go for it.
Just go get it. Just go get it. Just order your copy. You won't be.
And help me spread the word.
Yes.
Thank you, Shirley, for doing this interview. This is,
you're welcome. It's been fun.
A delight. It's been
fun. Well, we've had lots of fun interviews over the years, and we will continue. And of course, everybody, Suzanne's website is healingfromthecore.com. Go on over, visit her, say hi, visit her on Facebook, check out the book. Thank you. Thank you so much for this and taking the time to share your latest book with us.
Thank you.